Well, gracious good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here, as always, with the wonderful Caitlin Green, Sarah Burke. They are both coming to you live and in person without any colds or coughs this week from Toronto, Ontario. I am in my home in Springbank, Alberta, and we have a very special guest today. Eliza Reid is here with us today. You may remember Eliza being on our show, just over a year ago. She was at that time the First Lady of Iceland and is also a brilliant author. I can attest to that because I've just had the opportunity to read her very first work of fiction, which is coming out soon. And that's why we're going to be talking to Eliza Reid today. For that, we also want to talk about the wonderful Sprekar book about Icelandic women. That was an international bestseller. But today we're going to be talking about the Iceland Writers Retreat, which Eliza founded with Erica Jacobs Green in 2014. And it is one of the preeminent writers' retreats on the planet and has been reviewed thusly by many publications. And I am going to be part of it this year in April 2025. Eliza Reid, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Jann. It's such a pleasure to be back on the podcast and to have a bit of an Iceland love fest here today.
Having visited your country, it is probably one of the most gobsmacking trips that I have ever experienced in my life. I was there, as you know, you were very gracious enough to invite my friends to the White House, I guess you could call it, of Iceland. And we're still in shock over that. We're still talking about that afternoon. So I guess right out of the box, tell me about the rice, tell me about the rice cakes you ate this morning. Tell me about the Iceland Writers Retreat. I think I was saying Writers Retreat and Iceland at the same time.
It's okay. It's the afternoon here in Iceland, so I'm thinking about rice and supper already as well. So we're good. The Iceland Writers Retreat. Yeah, it's what I call my professional baby, and we're running it now for the 11th year in a row. And essentially, it's like if you like to write, you get to come to this beautiful country, Iceland, to its capital city, Reykjavík, which is a UNESCO city of literature, and do what you love to do with other people who love to write. Say it's like if you like cooking, you might go to Thailand for a week and take a cooking class, and this is about writing. So we welcome everybody, whether you are a full-time working writer, whether you have ambitions to be a published writer, whether you just kind of tinker with a diary or like to do it, you are welcome here. And essentially the whole event is a combination of two kind of things. One are these small group writing workshops led by faculty from around the world. This year, you won't believe it, but we have Jann Arden coming as one of the faculty members. We're very, very excited. But we have a number of people coming to teach workshops as well. We switch up our faculty every year. We have Curtis Siddenfeld, who wrote Ramadan, who's written a number of other books. Helen MacDonald, who wrote H is for Hawk. Kevin Chong, Giller Prize winner. Danny Ramadan, another Canadian author. Jonas Kameri. So lots of people. Little small classes, maximum 15 people each, that you can just talk about all different aspects of writing with. And then the other component of the visit is getting to know Iceland as a destination for literary tourism. So we have day trips to the Icelandic countryside, and Jann, you've been to the countryside, you know what it's like. But these are trips that we've created ourselves. So they're led by a writer as a tour guide. In fact, this year, I'll also pitch that we have one of our tour guides is coming back. He's my husband. He's no longer the president of Iceland, and he used to be a tour guide for us. And so I've convinced him to come back and do it again. He's a writer and a historian as well. And we have readings and stops on the way, so people really get to know Iceland, Icelandic literature, Icelandic music, and other heritage. So we're a sort of social and fun group, and it's just a gathering of like-minded people from around the world. We have a lot of fun with it.
One of the things that I learned from you that I really was taken aback by was Icelandic people are, like you said, it's a literary UNESCO country, but everyone in Iceland writes a book. Like if you go into an Icelandic bookstore, I don't know statistically what it is. I feel like it's 90% of your population has written a book or is writing a book. They are published authors. Can you tell me
Yeah.
how that even happens and how is that a thing? I mean, we're dealing with our neighbors to the south that statistically we found out a couple of shows ago that they have a 52% illiteracy rate to some degree, which is
Wow.
shocking.
Yeah.
So, and now we have Iceland with everybody's writing a book.
Yeah, probably not everybody, but a lot of people, I hope. We have a great phrase in Icelandic, "að ganga með bók í maganum," which means to walk with a book in your belly, which is this idea that we all have a story that we're waiting to give birth to. And I think that that is really beautiful. And I think, I've done a lot of talks about this overall, and not to give you a lecture, I think it's a combination of history. Iceland is where the Icelandic sagas come from, which are these ancient pieces of literature that have inspired writers and other cultural people for centuries later that we're very, very proud of. It's sort of a cultural heritage for the Icelandic nation. And there is a lot of government support as well for writers and other pursuits. So you can actually apply for a salary if you are an Icelandic author that is paid for by the government. Because again, then you're helping to contribute to the oeuvre of the Icelandic language as well. And that kind of builds on itself. There's this respect for cultural output overall. So authors are maybe the most well-known in that sense, but also musicians, visual artists, other kind of artists, screenwriters. Of course, kids these days, they want to be on the PlayStation. They don't necessarily want to write their book. But I think that fundamentally there still is this interest in reading, in literature. We have this huge event just before Christmas called the Christmas Book Flood every year. And everybody, most of the books are sold over the year, get sold at this time of year, and people do readings all over the place, and it's very, very cozy. And then there's these traditions of getting books on Christmas Eve that you then get to read. And I think we're a storytelling nation, and I think if running this event for the past just over a decade has taught me anything, it's as well is that we all have a story to tell. We don't have to have been a first lady, and we don't have to be a singer. We can live our own lives, and we each have something unique that we can tell and inspire other people with, give other people hope with, and connect to other people with, even if our own background and experiences is different than somebody else's.
Caitlin?
Oh, I just love this so much. And to me, what you're outlining, I'm like, okay, sure, this is a writer's retreat. This also sounds like a mental health retreat in a way, because what you're saying about, adding value to someone, regardless of necessarily their personal or professional accomplishments, and the idea that the most regular person still has this amazing story to tell. I feel like that part of artistry and creativity has been so lost up, especially in the swath of social media and kind of a different form of attention being paid to your phone every day versus, a book, and on really like creating something in a longer form that you're dedicating some real craft to. So I'm just fangirling for a moment over here, being like, this is not only going to be so good for writing, but also I think it would be a really great thing for people just on a personal level. It feels very special.
Yeah. Well, I really like that you said that, because one of the things that we have always tried to do is maintain a really friendly, welcoming, egalitarian atmosphere. And I think that that's something the people who come and take part often comment on, because I remember that we thought when we first did this will be kind of a bucket list item for people. They'll come once, they'll say, I want to go to Iceland. This is a good opportunity for me. And of course, it's a lot of women who go. Everyone who's go. The majority, I would say, are probably women. Women don't tend to kind of take vacations for themselves, carve out that time for themselves, and so it's a big deal for them. And we get a lot of people who are going through some kind of a change in their life, whether they are recently bereaved, recently divorced, going through cancer treatment, kind of trying to process big things in their lives. And for them to trust us with their time, with their money, with their personal stories is very gratifying and flattering, and the fact that they want to come to us. And I think we take that very seriously, that everyone is welcome. It's a very safe environment. And a lot of these people come back. So we always have we've had a couple of people who come every single year, in fact, which I think is so kind. And we've had about a third of the people who've come back before. And just that they feel that they can kind of share those stories with us. And some people said, I went to this feeling like I am a person who likes to write, and I left feeling like a writer. So it's really, we're not there to talk about the business of selling books. We're not there to say who is better than another person. And that then goes with the faculty as well. So, the people, we have all these authors who are coming, some are really well known, some are less well known. But they're having breakfast with you, or are they on the bus with you on the tour? So it's really not something where we're trying to be exclusive in any way. And I think that people really enjoy that, and then they kind of connect to each other. And so it's my dream. This has never happened, but maybe this is going to happen. Maybe some of the listeners will help me out here. That there's a lot of writing groups that have been founded afterwards. They meet in cities where people come from, or people who have stayed in touch, people who've been invited to other festivals, published their first book. But as far as I'm aware, we've never had two people who have met and then gotten married after going to the writers retreat. And it's kind of a little dream, that one day, and then they'll have to invite me to the wedding and Erica, and then they can say, if it weren't for the Iceland writers, there we go. So that's a challenge to listeners of the Jann Arden podcast.
I think what's so wonderful about this, and you touched on this, is that this is not about perceived ability. This is not about, a lot of people don't try things simply because they don't think they're going to be good at them.
Uh-huh.
And I use this example a lot. I asked my friend years ago what she would really like to do, because she was kind of just looking for something different outside of her job, outside of her kids and her marriage. And she goes, I've always loved photography, and I was thinking of taking a class. I said, oh, you should. She goes, yeah, but I'm not really good at it, so I don't want to embarrass myself in the photography class. And I said, it's a photography class.
Yeah.
Like, you need to hear yourself saying these words outside. But it's funny, the things that keep us back. So being a writer, everyone's a writer.
Yeah.
If you are sitting at a dinner table and regaling people about finding a parking spot at Chinook and what happened and who was fighting about what, and the guy got out of the car and he had a hat on and he looked it's just taking the pen and putting that down on a paper and writing. Everyone is a writer. Everyone is a storyteller. Maybe it's just the physicality of typing it out or writing it down. And I can attest to that. And as can you. I mean, it's we all have to start somewhere. So where was your starting point? I know that you worked in journalism, and you were working with magazines before you met your husband, who became the president of Iceland, and who's now going to be our tour guide.
There you go. So yeah, you're right. I started doing the writing, actually. It shows you how life takes these twists and turns. I always liked writing in school and doing those things. I'd never, ever thought about doing it as a career. My life just led me other places. I started working for a magazine because when I lived in Iceland, at first I was laid off from my job after a year working in a marketing area. And I thought, well, I'll get another marketing job. And while I was looking for work and not getting anything, I just pitched to an English language newspaper in Iceland. And I said, would you like a story on what it's like for an immigrant looking for work in Iceland? And they said, no, not really, but we'd love a story on the Eurovision Song Contest, which is this very big
same thing,
kitschy pop thing in Europe. And I was like, okay, sure. But a former Icelandic competitor used to go to the gym with me. I asked if I could interview him, and that complete coincidence led from one thing to another thing. And I got my writing chops in more. I liked the world. I think having founded this event, which I think was a success because we were organized, remembered to order the coffee for everybody and all that. But I think being around all these people and hearing them be excited about what they were working on also helped encourage me to think that maybe I could do it too. And the first book I wrote, Secrets of the Spracher, I wrote primarily during the pandemic. Again, you always think, oh, I won't have time. I think time is a huge thing that you think you're never going to have time to carve out for yourself. And
may
I
I say,
to do that.
International bestseller.
You may. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a remarkable first step into its memoir style, its storytelling style, but it's also speaking to women and how women make their way through Icelandic society. And I think the world really had its eyes open about the idea of equality. And you've often talked in different articles about Icelandic women aren't there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
No. No.
We're further down the road than many developed nations, but we're not there yet.
No.
So
And
I think the
yeah.
book was very enlightening to me, like just things that you're doing with childcare, with pregnancies, with women working, that balance. Like it was mind-boggling, Eliza. It
Thank
really
you.
was.
Well, I think that one of the things, if we're talking about, storytelling and sharing these stories and all that too, is I think that books that we like, we don't necessarily remember the plot of the story. We don't necessarily remember all the characters' names or what happened, but we remember the emotions that it evoked when we finished reading it, right? And with Secrets of the Sprakar, which is, as you said, there is a bit of memoir in there too, but it's a lot of interviews with various Icelandic women. What I want people to go away with is, I call it kind of my love letter to my adopted homeland, so that people, even if they're going on vacation to Iceland, might want to read it because they learn about different facets of society through the eyes of its women. And I just want people to read it and feel good, especially when I talk about an issue like gender equality and feminism, and there's a lot of anger and frustration, and we need to feel galvanized. I think we need to feel empowered to work to make a difference. But I don't want people to feel like there's a lot of anger, that there's futility with what's going on. And I hope that people read those stories and the stories of these women and think, okay, we don't all have to completely change the world, but we can certainly all do our part to nudge things in the right direction. And I hope that some of those stories inspire people to feel like we can all make a difference. We can all make a difference through helping to elevate people's voices, through helping to share our own stories and share the stories of others and realize what connects us, even from different areas. So that if you're the fishing captain in this tiny village in the west coast of Iceland, how do I connect to, the entrepreneur in Calgary? But I bet you can find a way. And that, actually, talking about new things or not, at the Iceland Writers Retreat this year, I'm teaching a workshop as well. It's the first time that both Erica, my co-founder, and I are teaching workshops. And I'll say it right now, I've never taught a writing workshop before. I actually have a few of them lined up before April. And there's a first time for everything. And that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot, is that I call it bringing out the extraordinary in the ordinary. It's trying to help people to tease out the unique details of a life, but the details that help connect us to other people as well. And that's what I tried to do with Secrets of the Sprakar.
You did that and then some. Sarah, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you the opportunity to ask a question.
So there's a lot of parallels between podcasting and writing a book. You're sharing a story. Obviously, like fiction, there are fiction podcasts that do really well, but I think, there's a lot more parallel between like people just hosting a podcast on a topic that they're interested in researching and someone writing a book. So I'm wondering, first of all, like how people in Iceland maybe engage with podcasts. Like, do you think that it's a big thing over there? Or do you think it's still coming up? And then I have a part two, but I'll let you answer that.
Okay. Well, I would say one notable difference is that I put on lipstick to talk to you today, and I don't do that when I'm writing. I'm going to tell you that.
That's fair.
But
that's fair.
I
Same.
put pants on.
This is a visual podcast. Yeah. So, it is up and coming. And I confess that I am a little bit kind of outside the loop, and I should be better because, of course, the Icelandic podcasting scene is in Icelandic. And so sometimes I'm a little bit lazy, even though I speak good Icelandic, and I don't tend to listen to all the podcasts. But I would say in the last couple of years, we've really seen more of an explosion of Icelandic podcasting. And there's a great example, because if we talk about the media landscape overall, or the storytelling landscape, and I say media broadly because we see cutbacks in terms of news, in terms of local coverage, and and podcasting is a great opportunity for that. If I look at Iceland, which has a population of 400,000 people, you can get interviews with all kinds of politicians, with pop stars, with writers that, we don't have as many magazines being published because that's too expensive. So I think there's a lot of potential to reach people through podcasting. What's your part two?
Okay, so the part two is, there's a parallel between sharing a chapter of a book and an episode of a podcast as well, like the way you break down whatever project it is that you're working on, right? So have you ever thought about something similar, like when you're writing your next book, sharing a chapter as an episode of something, because, we also get audiobooks where we hear your voice tell the story. And that is something that's really close to my heart too. I listen to audiobooks before bed. I was just wondering
I
if you
listen
had
to audiobooks before bed too.
It's
And
so
I'm gonna
relaxing.
Yeah,
it is so
I do as
relaxing, but you
well.
know what? I'm just gonna keep it real and tell you also why I sometimes listen to them. Because I have this, we all have these guilty pleasures on our phones, and mine is Candy Crush. And so I feel like it kind of counteracts it. If I'm listening to a very kind of intellectual political memoir and going, what's going on, but I'm also playing Candy Crush, then
this is
I
happening
feel like it
simultaneously.
balances out. Yeah.
I'm very impressed with you.
That's
This
busy.
is
Well-
two very different sectors of the mind. Wow.
Do you think so? I don't know, because I feel like then it's so passive, kind of just listening. I can do this mindless thing that I would feel guilty about if it were all that I were doing.
Got you. Yeah.
Right. And then I'm doing anyway. So I like the audiobooks. You were talking about episodes and
Like just bringing your story to life with your voice really is what it's about.
Yeah. So it's a great idea. I am often thinking about what I want to be when I grow up, because
I love that.
My time as First Lady ended last summer. It was kind of a crossroads. You're thinking about what you're going to do. I have, my first fiction is coming out at the end of April, and then I'm writing the follow-up to that book, and I'm writing another book, which is nonfiction. So, and I'm doing public speaking in the Writers Retreat. So there's lots of stuff going on. But sometimes in my mind,
And
I'm like,
you're a mother.
Really?
And you're a mother
I'm
of several children.
Yes.
So
yes,
I just want to put that in there, because it is a brick in the wall. That's important. That and people are like, how do you do everything? Well, you just do it. You just find the time.
And you know what? I would add to that though as well, because I am a mom, and of course I do my best at being a mother, as I hope most parents do. But women especially have all these expectations put on us, that we're supposed to be perfect mothers and have amazing careers and look gorgeous all the time and be totally in shape and cook healthy meals and have a tidy house. And we can't do nobody can do all of those things. And so you've been very kind to me now in the podcast and say that, I'm a good writer, that I run this nice writers retreat, and I have all these kids, and those are kind of all my priorities. If you look inside the house, which is not, it is totally messy. I didn't wash my hair today. There's other things that where I drop the ball because I choose to, and that also shows my privilege and my fortune that I get the chance to say, this is the ball that I'm going to drop in terms of living up to some unrealistic expectation of being a woman. Because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to drop those balls. A lot of people can only do the 3 jobs that they have to do. And then sometimes they can also be a good parent or whatever it is. So I certainly think it's unrealistic for every person to, or every woman to aim to have all of these perfect dimensions to their lives. And I don't think we talk enough about how nobody has all of those things all under control. But we also need to acknowledge that when we get to talk about all that and choose which ones we're going to do, it's also pretty fortunate for us.
For sure.
I think human life is about dropping balls. I think it's the only way forward to empathy and building character and showing your children something that's realistic. I mean, there's some people that, like you said, this privilege where they have a housekeeper come in that picks up every little building block, that piece of Lego that gets laid down, and the laundry's done, and all these things. But I would be very hard pressed to say that the people that have all these things in place, these fail-safe things to make their lives look a certain way, I think that at some point damages and takes away from your humanness of what you're capable of and learning. I can't stand having my obstacles removed for me. I just don't want that. I don't mind failing at all. Getting back to writing, it's just like before we went to air, I was telling Eliza and the girls that my editor, Ann Collins, who's wonderful at Random House, removed 40,000 words from the Biddlemores. So in a book that is 210,000 words, it's like a quarter of the book. Storylines that I worked on for months, because let's go back. I worked on this book for 11, 12 years. And that's going to be one of the things I'm going to speak to at the Iceland Writers Retreat, is sticking with the project, even when you think it's impossible to finish. Oh, I'll never get it done. It's worthless. And how many people have those projects sitting in boxes? So I really want to address that in April to anyone that shows up for my little segments is that follow through, and that it can be done, even if you're having 40,000 words removed.
So, and a journey begins with a single step, as you said. And I think it's learning, as you said, learning not to take that personally. All of these edits, they end up often making it a better book. And, one of the things that I don't know if I'll talk about my workshop, but I think we often talk about it, these ideas of rejection. Like when I wrote, my first fiction is coming out in the spring, and I started it sort of after I finished Secrets of the Spracker, because I thought now I've incorporated writing somehow into my routine. And if I don't just start something else now, I'll just always say that I never have time. And it's one thing to write a nonfiction book and you have a proposal and you write a couple chapters and an outline and you sell that, and then you are contractually obligated to finish the damn book.
Yeah, someone's pushing you.
Right? You've got to do it. But with fiction, nobody cares until you've written a whole book. And you might be finished, and some people will say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. And I found, at least personally, that it was really hard to be motivated to continue to do that. And the only thing that kept me going, which maybe sounds ridiculous, but I thought it could be that I write this and nobody wants to publish it. But I know 100% that no one will publish it if I never write it.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that kind of kept me going. And then I kept I was one of those authors. I said to my agent, send me every rejection as they come in. Like, I would just like to know the status of what's going on. And of course, there's plenty of rejections.
Have you been on Tinder lately?
I'm married over 20 years. I've never yet opened Tinder.
Your book is called Death on the Island, and I want to speak to it for a minute before we let you go. I was fortunate enough, and I don't know how, the literary gods shone a light on me, and I was able to read a galley copy, which is the copy that, might still have a couple little spelling mistakes or whatever, and it, people get to read it. I loved it. I'm not going to say one word about it. Death on the Island. And I don't even know how to describe it. You're going to have to just wait and read my quote, whatever they chose to put on the book. But it is
it's very kind of you. Thank you.
But it's not kind. It's really, it's smart. It's funny. The character, Jane is like, I just loved it. And I read a lot, Eliza. You can ask the girls. I read a lot. We are starting a book club. And I want you to know that Eliza Reid's Death on the Island is going to be part of the Jann Arden podcast book club
that is so exciting.
Forward. Yeah, once it comes out. So, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you don't come back and talk to our listeners
I am there.
Our book club book. But yeah, it's exciting.
I am there.
And
thank you.
But yeah, and then Death of a Diplomat is the second one.
Actually, it's a different title. It's the same book. So it's Death on the Island in North America, and it's Death of a Diplomat in the UK, and it's the same book, and it's a different title. Maybe people buy two thinking it's the same. So I know it's weird.
I was confused because I'm looking at it and I'm like, are they already publishing the second book cover? Like, I just thought they're giving us a little. No,
it's not, because I'm only I'm only about a third of the way through the first draft of book 2, so it doesn't even have a title yet.
So
it's the same characters.
What are we getting? Are we getting Death
in North America? You're getting Death on the Island.
Death on the Island. That's what we're getting here. Okay,
that's right.
Why is it different in Europe?
The European title is actually the original title that I wrote.
Okay.
And the publishers in the US and then Canada decided that they thought Death on the Island was a better selling title. And who am I to argue with marketing department?
What? Let the professionals do their job.
That's
because
right.
They sell books every day.
Exactly. And I'd like to sell the book, so I go with that.
I would like you also to sell the book.
It is available for pre-order now. I will plug that, because as you know too, with authors, pre-orders are a big deal.
Yeah.
They really are. They help you get to the number one, those all count towards your charting position. So very much like songs in the top 40, books have a very similar trajectory. And like anything else in this world, folks, when you make it on a bestseller list, especially that top 10 position, it is, for me, it's a lazy man's way to sell a book, because I often will go to those top 10, top 20 when I'm searching for a book that I want to read. I do rely on that, and I rely on reviews. I rely on star reviews, because it's a really wide swath that is cut by listeners and readers of these publications. So anyway, you're going to love the book.
And it builds on itself too. So I was just going to say, like if it doesn't start off really well, then people kind of pull the resources and are like, oh, let's move on to something else, et cetera, et cetera. So
it is the building blocks of capitalism. And it really is important.
Are we here promoting capitalism, Jen? We're like, let's go.
I'm just saying, it in the industry, like in Canada, for example, a best-selling book is 5,000 copies of a book. We have 40 million people here. So when you think about statistically a bestseller, 5,000, and what people go to, you and I have a slight advantage, and I mean that with love in my heart. I have a swath of people that have followed me the last 30 years. That will open the door for me a crack. But if the book is not worthy, and that was my 6th book, The Biddlemores, if the book isn't worthy, the crack in the door is going to shut. Very similar with an international platform that you had, be it, Iceland's First Lady. I mean, there's a lot of light shone on that. You had a lot of exposure, but I almost would think it would be more pressure for you to write Secrets of the Spraekar and write a complete turd that, people would be open to. No, but it is.
Yeah.
But you didn't. I mean, people don't understand the risk involved, because it's not like being Jane Smitherson from Peace River, Canada, that puts out a novel and it's hard to sell it. Nobody knows her. It's her first book. Like, there's so many things. And when we talked about privilege earlier, I completely understand that. But I also know, everyone that's listening, it gives me the opportunity. But once that door closes, if it's not good, it's even more piled on you. So I am defending us. I'm just saying that. But going into writing your first novel, I understand the just how intricate that pressure is to do something great.
It's like the second
and
album.
I was nervous reading it. I'm like,
oh wow,
please, Eliza Reid, please, Eliza Reid, please come
don't
through.
make this a turd.
Yeah. Adriana Trigiani gave me really good. I said, if people ever asked you to like do a blurb for books that they've written, and if you don't really like it, what happens? She goes, well, I'll say, great cover. I really loved the backdrop. Like, she had really funny things to say about that, but she said, indeed. And she's got these heavy hitter friends that I'm sure, once in a while she'll get something that, okay, I got to write a blurb for this. So I was rooting for you, and I wasn't disappointed.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
Last minute or two, what do people need to know to sign up in April for the Iceland Writers Retreat, travel and things like that? Maybe we can just touch on that for a second.
Yeah.
We'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's from April 23rd to the 27th this year. And the faculty changes every year. So especially if you want to take your classes with Jann Arden and others, this is the year to do it. You can go to our website, icelandwritersretreat.com, for how much it costs. It's pretty all-inclusive except for the flights and the hotel, but we have fantastic food, great gift bags, all the workshops, tours, etc. And we have a special offer for listeners of the Jann Arden pod, which is 5% off the standard fee for anybody who wants to sign up and attend. We call standard because you can upgrade to take more workshops and do other things. 5% off the standard fee, and all you do is pay your deposit, and then when you fill in the "How did you hear about us" form, you just say "through the pod," and then the discount will be applied at the end.
That's very generous.
We like this podcast, and I know when I was on a couple of years ago, people had heard about us this way, and so I just feel like the listeners of this podcast are a good match for the IWR.
Well, they're all book people. They're very excited about us announcing. We're calling it the Jann Arden Pod Book Bag. So we're really excited about it. But
you could do some bits from Iceland. And I should say, if to interrupt, it's also not that far, as you know. Like we're not, it's a 5-hour flight from Toronto, 5-hour flight from New York. It's not maybe as far away as you think, but
it's 2 movies
place to visit.
And a Virgin Caesar. I know this. I've done it.
Speaking for a friend.
And it was fantastic. And I'm going a couple of days early. A colleague of mine is coming. Chris is coming with me. And we're coming a couple of days early just to eat stuff. The food is incredible. When I came away from that trip, we could not stop talking about the food. We even took a food tour in downtown Reykjavík, a historical food tour of some of the oldest establishments. The last little stop that we had, people were served fermented shark. And
we do not serve that at the IWR. I'll just say that before people are like, I'm not going.
No, but this was just, he explained it very much. This was something when they would bury the shark underground and it would be there for months. And it was very much an acquired taste. But our guide said, my grandmother actually served to us on a Sunday. And anyway, it's been fantastic having you on as always. I look forward to watching Death on the Island become an instant best hit seller, because it's just an incredible piece of work, and you should be so
from your lips. We'll see.
I'm telling you, like I said, I read a lot, and I look forward to seeing anybody at the Writers Retreat. I hope you guys can make it out. All the information will be on the show notes. Eliza Reid, as always, you have just been an absolute pleasure. And I wish you such success. Sorry, are you giving me something? Was there?
Both Caitlin and I are doing our finger things. Caitlin, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, because Eliza, we've been doing this with some guests that we've had on the show recently.
Yes.
And it's sort of in and around an area that we find really connects with so many of our listeners. But what do you do to support your own kind of mental health and to take care of yourself? Like, what's something you do for yourself? Is it, do you go sit in the Blue Lagoon? Like, how do you take care of yourself?
So I love going for walks. Yeah. And to listeners, I did not know this question was coming in advance. I love going for walks, but sometimes the weather isn't that compliant in Iceland, and then you can't go for walks. I'd love to tell you that I do all kinds of yoga poses and eat super clean foods and all that. And I don't at all. And I guess so rather than doing that I guess a broad thing is I really try to feel comfortable with my decisions in my life. I really try to not spend emotional energy on thinking, I should have done this, I should have done that. Why do I not do yoga every day? Why do I not eat super clean food every day? Because either I should be doing it and enjoying it, or I should just not worry that I'm not doing it. And in the evenings, when I've listened to my book and I've played my Candy Crush, where I'm being very open with all of you readers now, I just try to think to myself, what did I like about today, and what am I looking forward to about tomorrow?
Active meditation and gratitude.
Is that what? I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm no expert in this space, but that's what it is. You're giving gratitude and you're being active about your meditating. Yeah.
Okay. I just like it just kind of puts it all up there, and then of course I worry about global warming and all the stuff.
Why not?
Worrying about, right?
That's the nightcap.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the after. I just try to feel grateful. Yeah.
Quick thing I was just going to say, and I feel like this is going to come up more because, we also have a prime minister on his way out right now, but are we to call you the ex-First Lady of Iceland? Like, what, in your book, when people are writing the, synopsis and about the author, what do we call you?
I guess former First Lady. Yeah. Okay. Because also it's not even like a proper title. Yeah. It's so funny when I talk about it with my husband, I say I used to be the first, I'm like, my husband and I are still together as a couple. Yeah. We're just, in different roles. It's not a title. I say former First Lady,
okay,
I guess.
Thank you for clarifying. That's it.
And then, but maybe, who knows, if the book is a big success, I'll be author of the Jane Shearer series of murder mysteries and former First Lady.
Okay, got
it. Without having met me, the First Lady at the time took me and 3 complete other strangers into her home. And it was one of the highlights of my life. And looking at the 400-year-old Bible, it was a really special day. Yeah. Like, it may not have seemed, we were all mortified. None of us had proper clothes. We're all going, oh my God, I can't believe I wore those shoes with mud on them. And and your husband came in for a photograph with us, and it was really special. Anyway, thanks for being on the show today, and I look forward to seeing you in April, and I'll look forward to everyone reading your book. So Eliza Reid has been our guest today. Death on the Island is her new novel that is going to be out in April. And if you can come to the Iceland Writers Retreat, all the information's on the podcast, and you will get 5% off if you said that you heard it here on the Jann Arden Pod. So Eliza Reid, thank you so much. Former First Lady of Iceland, we shall bid you adieu.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
We will be right back. You have just been listening to my conversation with Eliza Reid. Don't go away. Lots more to come. Welcome back. You have been listening to the Jann Arden Podcast. I'm with Caitlin Green, as always, Sarah Burke, as always, and our guest, who was fantastic, was Eliza Reid. We have now discovered we will be referring to her as the former First Lady of Iceland. Sarah made the suggestion of X, the ex-First Lady. And Eliza said, no, I will be the former. Anyway, she was great. I think a lot of really just good reminders for us all.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, if you looked at my house right now, it's kind of messy. I'm not eating broccoli and chia seeds every morning. I'm just living my life. I choose to do the things that bring me joy and make me happy. So let's make sure that we do that. Yeah, how are you guys doing? Let's get I feel like I haven't seen you for over a week.
I know. I'm cold is what I am. It's
cold here.
Sweater weather.
It's freezing here, and also freezing and dry. I don't think it's possible to have enough humidifiers going in your house right now in Canada. And I think that moisturizing is at this point a part-time job for me because of how dry my cuticles are and my nose.
You're going to lose a nipple if you don't. You're going to lose a nipple.
It's going to fall right. It's going to blow away in the wind.
I had a nosebleed like out of nowhere yesterday.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh my God, I had my sister's baby shower yesterday. I was like, I'm wearing nice clothes. I hope I didn't get blood on myself.
You need a humidifier.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's been a very dry period of time, but other than that, mostly just hibernating. And I feel like when Eliza was talking about the weather and the darkness in Iceland, and Canada obviously experiences similar weather at times, it made me wonder and think if there isn't perhaps a correlation between the climate and the darkness of Iceland and Canada and why we're prone to these indoor sports like reading and writing, because it's very in line with just being cozy and not wanting to go outside. And you have so many months of the year where you're forced indoors that you're going to end up reading a lot of books.
Do you know what it is today? It is Blue Monday.
Oh, I hate that. Stupid.
I know. And like, it's an eye roll. Let me just preface that.
I know you're listening on a Friday, but we are taping on Blue Monday. So explain Blue Monday. Is it something to do with the moon?
It's like a term coined by a travel agency way back when. And I mean, it got picked up as like a huge media thing that we're all depressed on, the most depressed at this point in January, and people taking advantage of mental health kind of concepts around this time. Did I explain that right, Caitlin? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a marketing ploy to make everyone spend money on travel.
And coincidence, Donald Trump is getting inaugurated today. Very blue indeed.
Well read. But yes. I was seeing that sort of filter through on my social just today, like all the different shots of delegates arriving and everyone trying to do, body language experts are going to tell you what it means when President Obama looks at this person this way. I was like, oh my God.
We were going to hit this whole TikTok, going away and then coming back all in however many hours.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because we saw thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of goodbye TikTok videos. People were crying. People were, worrying about, losing, thousands and thousands of dollars every year because TikTok in the United States, as we know, pays out. They do not do those programs here in Canada, as far as I know. I think you can accept gifts from people, but it's a little different format here. Anyway, all these lamenting, crying, sobbing, like I really was over watching it. I'm just like, you guys have to figure out how to live in the real world. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it, but I guess when you have 40 million followers, it's the closest thing to fame that you're going to get for making cucumber salads in a plastic bin, once a week and shaking them up
People
and
have
doing
made
stuff like that.
communities, though, to be fair. Like, there are some people who have, like, whether it's like a cause like moms demanding action or talking about,
I do understand that, Sarah. I do get it.
Yeah.
But, they've elected a guy that's going to take away basic democracy. Like it's an oligarchy. He's appointing rich people.
Yes.
You didn't see anyone putting their hands in the air and crying and lamenting. And like, it's amazing what Americans in particular, and that's what I'm talking about, what they deem as important. And we can see that in plain sight.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my bit.
Keeping it short. We like it.
I just, it's amazing.
I didn't care at all.
Find important. Yeah. I didn't care
at all
either.
I thought there were some good jokes. Like the best I hope for from the internet this day and age is when something goes down and starts trending, I'm like, can we at least get some good jokes out of this? Because honestly, you're going to see so many different platforms come and go in your life. And you're going to see so many different issues arise within how each platform is used and who owns it and who controls that form of information and that flow of information. And it will be ever changing. And it's a pawn in everyone's sort of like political game. But I do think it was funny, like you, Jann, to see everyone crying on there about TikTok being gone. It was back less than 24 hours later, let's be honest, with a warning or a note of thanks to incoming President Trump.
Who started the TikTok ban? Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
You started this, girl.
So this is giving somebody a candy, taking it back and then giving it back to them. Like, it's so weird when you look at, and there was a lot of Black content makers in the last 10 hours that were talking about it being very similar to slavery, as being given something, having it taken away from you, and then they hand it back to you, and you're expected to thank them for taking away something from you that wasn't theirs to begin with to take. But a lot of them are going off just about how this is textbook. This is right out of the playbook of, an abusive kind of behavior, and to make you feel stupid and make you feel like, oh, we're grateful to you, Almighty One, who's given us back TikTok. I think it's pathetic.
I just think that it's like there, a healthy dose of cynicism around any of these things and why they start. And again, the constant through line of like, please follow the money, because that's really what this is sort of all about.
The motive is inauguration. He wants it live streamed on TikTok today. That's exactly why it's back.
Well, and don't forget though that he also does want this to be very much on his terms. So the idea is that you go in and you play hardball prior to actually having to sit down at the negotiation table. It's an ability to say, the government here, which I'm now in charge of, does have the ability to impact your business and to impact your ability to reach all of these American eyeballs. And so he wants to set the tone that he's in control. But it is worth reminding everyone that his random and very vague executive order back in 2020 is what kicked this whole thing off. And so, of course, he's a politician who's going to be prone to changing his mind, and he's going to be kind of fair weather with his policies as they suit or don't suit his needs anymore. This is just one such example of that. But you don't own your content on these platforms. Everyone, the companies own them. It is rented space. So if you are a creator, if you're someone who's part of the creator economy, I think this is a really important moment to say, oh crap, I should be on a platform perhaps like YouTube, or maybe I should be creating a newsletter, or however you want to reach your kind of your people. But like they could turn this switch on and off whenever they want, and just like don't get so worked up over it. MySpace came and went, Snapchat comes and goes. It's all going to come and go.
Still sad about MySpace.
I know, Tom. Tom from MySpace was the only good one out of all these tech bros.
Well, note to self, folks, do not monetize your worth by how many likes you get and how many views you get on social media. Do not monetize your value and who you are as a person and your character. Look around. Who are your friends? Who are your friends? The most important thing to me in my life is my dog, and he's sleeping in a bag right behind me, and my friendships. I had 7 fantastic people over last night for dinner, and we didn't talk about who one time. We didn't talk about anything. We talked about life and kids and grandkids and traveling and food. And I made tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches and with caramelized onion and apple slices. And it was fantastic. And then we watched a really weird Chilean movie called Gloria. Like, we're living a life. We weren't waiting for someone to tick a box or like what we were doing, or we didn't take one picture and post it anywhere. We just had a moment.
And you've said this before, Jan, and I'm certain it was on mic at points, but definitely off mic as well. But that, I think what happens now when you amass a lot of followers and when you get these like dopamine hits from how many likes you get on your photos or how big your following is getting on social media, that there is this sort of quiet threat all the time that like, we can take this away from you. And I notice when a celebrity gets quote unquote canceled now or has this fallout, so much of their coverage will be like, they lost 500,000 followers in a week or whatever. It like they are trying to threaten you with this concept that like you'll be less popular on social media. And I love that Jan's always been like, I don't care who unfollows me. I'm going to say whatever I want because your self-worth is not rooted in how many followers you have or in your access to people on their phone.
It's why I go after animal welfare the way I do. Like I literally tell people to F off. I tell them that they're a-holes. I tell them, how can you do this? Unfollow me then. I've been at a certain amount of following for a year. It doesn't go up and it doesn't go down. So people are unfollowing me and following me. I do not care. One last thing about this inauguration, Snoop Dogg, who I've always really loved his politics. In 2020, he posted a video saying anyone that's going to be doing anything for the first Trump inauguration, right? Was just like, sorry, not it was before that. So was it 2016?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
His inauguration, I think, would have been in 2017. Yeah.
So he was going off about, and here he is doing this, him and Carrie Underwood. And like, maybe it's not about politics, but I'll tell you right now, it's got to be about money. They must pay to play on this thing.
Yeah.
But I just think, talk about changing your mind, but I wonder what long-term this is going to look like for him and his career. Maybe people just don't care. I care. It's changed the way I feel about him. And
it gives you an ick, eh?
Yeah. I'm really disappointed that someone who has been so outspoken about him.
We are disappointed in you.
Like, he doesn't give a crap, but it's just like, come on, dude.
Yeah. And I do think this is a trend that everyone should keep their eyes on. And I would anticipate that it is going to grow. And it's from the designers who are dressing people who are attending this inauguration, attending these events. It's the messaging. It is going to be that this is now your opportunity to kind of like get in with them because it's going to be good for your bank account and good for your following and all those types of things. It's this, everyone wants to cozy up to power. And I think previously it was still seen as sort of unpopular because there was a lot of scrutiny about how many people actually supported him and how he gained support. Now that seems to be done away with and everyone is like, okay, well, he legitimately won and there's a rebrand happening. That's all I'll say. There's going to be this mainstreaming of him in a way that you didn't see last time. And it's going to happen with people who previously were really outspoken about him. And now they're going to be perfectly happy to perform at his events. I think you're going to see more and more of this, and it will be increasingly dismaying if you have memory of how things have changed.
Okay, moving on.
Just saying.
Yeah,
it's going to be more. It's going to be more. It's going to be more.
It's true. And I think it's a very valuable point that you make, Caitlin. I really do. It's amazing. Back in World War II, this seems very random, but the Italians were constantly criticized for swapping sides in the war.
Yes.
So it basically came down to who's ahead. Okay, who's ahead now? Yes. And they literally did that. And, that's what's happening now. They're just seeing what's in it for them. I'll tell you what, you could offer me $10 million, $20 million. There's nothing you could offer me that would make me to support a rapist, to support someone who's a felon, to support someone who mocks disabled people, to support someone who's a liar, to support someone who speaks so maliciously and in such a derogatory way of women of all genders, walks of life, whatever. There's nothing in me that would make me do that. And you will never see me change my mind or change sides on this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get a mic drop sound effect for you.
Yeah,
very well said.
I'm just saying, the facts are the facts. That is what I'm going to be dealing with in my life as I go forward. I'm constantly criticized for, just stay in your lane. You're not a politician. Musicians, artists, sculptors, poets, writers, have been politicians since time immemorial. We have been the ones telling the stories of repressed people, marginalized people. And I'm disappointed in Snoop. I like the guy. And I know that seems like I don't know him from Adam. Maybe he's got his own reasons. And yes, people are allowed to change their minds, but this is more than a changing of the minds. This is a family man. This is a guy that values the relationship he has with his wife. And I don't know how you can draw that line between a man who has been convicted, who has talked about women the way he's talked about them in a court of law. I don't know how you can go, that's okay though. I can make a couple $1,000,000 by doing a rap at the inauguration. So.
Or they really liked his recent tax breaks. And because of the tax bracket they're in, they would like to see that flow of money not get turned off. So I tend to believe it's always just a case of follow the money. But I also saw a bunch of people in like the hip hop community saying that, he sort of turned on Tupac right before Tupac's death as well, that they were once very closely aligned, and that he was like cozying up to Notorious B.I.G. and they were having their falling out. And so I thought that was kind of funny. A bunch of people were saying they're like, he's always been a bit of a flip flopper. I was like, I did not know that. But
I don't know. My word is important to me. My word, my actions. I think Eliza Reid said something that will really stay with me for a long time. When you asked her the question, Caitlin, about what do you do to kind of for your mental health and things like that. And one of the things she said near the end of her little spiel was, I want to be proud of the decisions that I make. I want to be able to stand by the decisions that I make. And I love that. Decisions don't always have to be right, but she wanted to be comfortable with her decisions. We have some voice notes that we're going to get to before we end this episode. And we have a little housekeeping, and I'm going to hand that over to either one of you guys because we want to talk about the book club before we leave.
Let's end with the book club.
So we're going to start with that. And you know more about the technical aspect of it than I do. So I'm handing it over to my young colleagues to explain when this is going to start, explain Patreon, the different tiers in Patreon, and what that gets you as far as the Jann Arden Pod book bag. So 3, 2, 1, go.
So we are going to be starting the Jann Arden podcast book bag. We are going to be announcing the selected title, which is Jann. So Jann obviously gets first crack at picking the book that she's then going to have all of us read. So Jann, you had teased a little bit about what this title would be in last week's episode. Are you ready to do the big reveal?
I'm ready.
Yes.
I don't know what kind of a sound effect Sarah's going to offer us.
Okay, let's go. I'm ready.
The book is one of the best books that I have read in, I'm going to say, the last 5 or 6 years. It is called In Memoriam. It is written by Alice Winn, Winn, and it is the first book in our book club. I don't want to tell you a lot about it. It is a war story, but it's not a war story. It's a human story. In Memoriam. You can find it everywhere. It's available on Amazon. You can listen to it on Audible. You can listen to it. You can read it on your Kindle. You can do all the things with this book. It's widely available.
And there is a dedicated discussion area in Patreon, which you only get access to if you are one of our Only Jann's book bag tier, which is the $7 tier. Okay, we'll have more information in the show notes. So if you're confused, have a look at all the text that goes along with this episode. But one more time, the title?
In Memoriam by Alice Winn.
Woo! It felt like a tad maybe not appropriate to cheer as you were talking about the war, so I waited.
Well, no, I think literature is worth cheering about. I mean, obviously today's episode lends itself very beautifully into our book bag that we're going to be doing on Patreon. Like Sarah said, our $7 tier, which gets you everything else that we always get, all the extra content every week, the videos, the pictures, the little. It's really fun seeing everyone talk amongst themselves on some of the different forums that we have. So I'm really loving that. And I love hearing the stories of, oh, I met so-and-so here, and now we've met here, and we met each other at your concert, and now we're on. So keep it up. And
for Eliza, we need 2 people to meet to get married eventually.
Oh, yes.
From our Only Jans. If you guys meet on Only Jans and then you get married, we're going to need to know about that at great
And we're
detail.
coming to the
Yes.
wedding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Jan will officiate. But yeah, so
Yes.
what we'll do is, you know,
No.
we're still, of course, going to, no, Jan's not going to. But we will, of course, still discuss the books like on our regular episodes too. We're still going to get into it. We certainly hope to be able to have some of the authors come and join us on the show to talk about the books in greater detail. But we just wanted to get the ball kind of rolling and have Jan's first pick. So we'll reconvene a month from now and we'll discuss the book. We'll talk about our thoughts on it, and then the discussion will of course continue on our Patreon special tier, and that's when you can sort of interact with us and other people, and there'll be special content, there'll be giveaways, there's lots of stuff that's going to continue to roll out there around the book bag. But I'm very excited, and it's also going to force me to read.
Me
This
too.
This
Me
is what I
too.
need in my life.
I know. So
Yeah,
there will
it's-
be a post up this week that gives you, like, you know, I grabbed the Indigo chapters link and the Amazon link, but feel free to, you know, if you want to listen to the audiobook instead or whatever it is, do what works for you. You can go to the library if you don't want to purchase it outright, borrow it from a friend, but the information will be in the Only Jan's book bag discussion on Patreon. How about some voice notes?
Yay.
Yeah.
One last little thing from
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
Thanks to you guys and booking a cameo. As I said, I'm wearing my Los Angeles sweatshirt
Yeah.
today. We donated $800 to the Pasadena.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just
Amazing.
got the receipt, and we from the Pasadena Humane Society. That's going to help lost animals, injured animals, scared animals, misplaced animals, abandoned animals. So
Let's
they're
keep
doing,
it going.
they're
We'll
doing
keep
great
the link
things there. So
we'll
yeah,
keep the link in the
so
show
all
notes.
the money this next month, I'm donating to the Pasadena Humane Society. Well,
job,
somebody
Jann.
got out of bed finally. I've been babysitting Joni.
Oh.
Joni.
Let's see, Joni, because she's here.
Well, just hang on a second. You got to see this little monkey.
Hi,
Oh.
Joni. Oh, of course she disconnected her microphone. Of course.
What's you doing, Joni? What was that on YouTube? Did you finally wake up? Did you finally wake up?
Okay, so yeah, that was the cameo update. So keep that rolling. If there's a cameo, if you want me to break up with somebody, if you want me to ask them to marry you, if you want a birthday, if you want me to sing Good Mother, whatever you want, all the money this month is going to the Pasadena Humane Society. So we just fired off $800. Okay, voice notes. We got some good ones this week. So we're going to listen to some of those.
Okay, here we go.
My name is Haley, and I'm 27 years old, and I feel like this has been my entire 20s. I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, where the message was to be beautiful, you have to be thin, and that really messed with me growing up. I've been on both extremes. I've been very overweight, and I've been severely underweight to the point where my hair started to break off. So I knew I needed to make a change. I met my partner, and he was a bodybuilder, and I'm like, look, can you help me become healthy? So he taught me how to build muscle, but to build muscle, you have to eat. So I've had to go on this healing journey with food. And I finally feel like I'm at this point where I can eat the sweet treats and enjoy the things that I love and not feel guilty about it. And that's been so freeing, but it took a lot of work to get there. I'm also enjoying my body now, not because of how it looks, but because last year I literally climbed a mountain and I've never been able to do that before. So that's been a really awesome part of this. Also, thinking back at my thinnest, I still thought that I needed to lose weight. So I'm starting to think that it's not about how you look, it's about how you feel. So going into 2025, I want to go to the gym because I want to be healthy. I want to eat things because I enjoy them. I'm taking my vitamins, I'm stretching, right? Like I want it to be all about that. And my hair is growing back so beautifully. And I'm just so proud of myself. But shout out to everybody because it's just like this never ending journey, I feel like. And I know how hard it is. Looking back at pictures from the last 2 years, in that moment, I hated myself and I thought I looked awful. Now, looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like, what was I talking about? I'm so beautiful. Like, I looked amazing. So now when I feel that way, I think about 29-year-old Haley looking back at me now saying the same thing. And then I kind of laugh and I'm like, okay, you're being hard on yourself. So shout out to everyone. You got this. Just be happy, be yourself, be healthy, do the things that you love, because that's going to make you feel the best about yourself.
And shout out to Jann for opening that door to talk about all that stuff.
Wow.
All from the chins conversation.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't have that wherewithal when I was 27. So
I know.
That-
I was just
that's
thinking
so-
that.
yeah. I mean,
amazing. That's
yeah.
so great. Thank you, Haley, for leaving us that very honest and kind of empowering voice note. And it flies in the face of a lot of the negative messaging, I think, that can happen, especially around the start of the year. Like, get to the gym and don't eat and lose all this weight and blah, 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 kind of like become less, shrink yourself down a little bit. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm going to climb a mountain. I'm going to enjoy my food and I'm going to be healthy. That's exactly
who wants
what
to
you
live
want.
a life of denial? Not me.
It's unsustainable. It's completely unsustainable. It's just going to throw you, your body, and your mind into a state of yo-yo, and it's not for me.
Yep.
Okay, here's another one.
Oh, we got more.
Hi, ladies. It's Karen from Kingston calling. I just wanted to comment today on the podcast and specifically the segment on New Year's resolutions. I myself don't do resolutions anymore, but what I have been doing is every year I challenge myself to step outside of my comfort zone and do something totally different, something totally new, something that really challenges myself, something that excites me, something where I will learn something. I started that when I was 50 and I turned 65 this year. So I have a few adventures under my belt. I've done things like I ran a half marathon, even though I hate running. I took up archery. I took singing lessons and recorded a song. Last year, I took ice baths every day for a whole year. And just to see if I could do it. And I did. I'm not sure what my adventure will be this year. But I hope it will be something fun and exciting and just something that, gets you interested again and active and, like I say, just stepping way outside your comfort zone and feeling like you've really accomplished something. So I just wanted to send a little note and say, that's what I'm doing.
Love it.
Good for you.
I challenge everybody else out there to, find something that excites them and gets them moving again and, find something interesting.
Love it.
It really, really makes life so much more joyful.
All right. We got two more. You want to keep going?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. You don't have to be good at any of these things. Like, you don't have to be good at taking an ice bath.
But you can enjoy it.
You don't have to have any level of expertise. You just need to grit your teeth and get in there. But that's a commitment. Doing that every day for a year is
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, and really what you're just doing is getting more engaged with your own life. Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, like it's very like I'm alive. It's like the vibe I was getting from Karen in that moment. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Absolutely love it.
Okay, here's Cam.
Hi there. This is my third take, my third or fourth attempt at doing this. So I'm going to try and be as brief as possible. Jann, lifetime fan or nearly lifetime fan, became a fan of yours with the release of Happy. I still think The Sound Of is one of the greatest songs / singles of the last 50 years. That's how strongly I think of it. And I'm a huge fan of yours. Own every album on CD and every album that's been released on vinyl. I've bought on vinyl as well. Anyway, I digress. I just want to thank you for the message that you put out there about seeing yourself in the studio with Jax and finding that you have, a double chin and not liking your posture and being hard on yourself. Thank you. Because, Jann, you make us laugh, you entertain us, you inspire us as musicians, as creators, but you also remind us of some really fundamental things. And I've been so hard on myself. I'm starting a new job this week and we're doing online training. And so I've got the camera in my face at all times. And I keep looking at myself and thinking, oh boy, stand straight and maybe tilt your head this way. You look thinner if you look this way, if you look that way, if you look up, if you look down. We're so hard on ourselves. And even I, as a 44-year-old male, I think about that stuff and it breaks my heart. And we are way too hard on ourselves. We need to be hard on ourselves for the real stuff that matters, but not that. And thank you simply for reminding us. Sorry about the multiple messages, but thank you for being you, Jann.
Cam did a great job keeping it to 2 minutes that time. He was getting cut off. That's what kept
I
happening.
really
Aw.
appreciate every word. And it's so true. You know, when Eliza was saying she didn't wash her hair and that she put lipstick on for this because she knew that this was also a visual podcast, because you can find us on YouTube, little plug there. And, you know, we do clips on social media, and it's always just like, Caitlin, you're right. Like, I just had to say I didn't like the way I was sitting and didn't like the way I looked, but then you catch yourself, right? So, and here's a perspective from a guy in his 40s that, you know, going into a new job, and now you have to add a second tier of like
Anxiety.
fear and anxiety onto already doing the training. Like, it's just, I don't know why we do it to ourselves. I think we almost want to be preemptive and do it before somebody else gets to it. Oh, I already know I look terrible. You don't have to tell me. Like,
Yeah, it's about, I think, not wanting to sort of like be vulnerable and feel like open to criticism. And I'm so happy that, you know, Cam left us that voice note, and that left the voice note today, because we even wound up touching on it with Eliza. I mean, here's an incredibly intelligent, accomplished woman, former First Lady of Iceland. The accolades go on. And she's saying she still thinks about this. Like, when she was appearing on camera, when she was in the public eye all the time, I mean, it kind of plagues everyone. And he's so right in saying, like, let's be hard on ourselves for the stuff that matters, because it truly is kind of a waste of our energy, which is such a finite resource that we don't need to spend so much time. And be a good friend to yourself and just be like, I would never think this about my friend. Why am I thinking about it for myself in that way?
Yeah, I wanted to make it a little easier for people to leave us voice notes. I'm going to start putting a link in the show notes that takes you right to the voice note page.
Oh, great.
Anyway, thank you guys for those voice notes. And
they were great.
Yeah, and keep them coming. We're back with a vengeance with voice notes this year, and we're so happy to have them.
Yep.
Well, you know, that's our show for today. It was a good one. We appreciate you listening. Subscribe if you can. You can listen to us on all your favorite streaming platforms. Give us a review. That helps people find the podcast as well. And of course, when you subscribe, it just shows up in your mailbox week after week after week. We're well into season 5. Eliza Reid was our guest. Thank you, Eliza. The Iceland Writers Retreat is going to be, all the information is going to be there. And if you put in the code Jann Arden Pod, 5% off, which turns out to be hundreds of dollars. It is a little bit pricey, you know, and but like Eliza said, there's tours that are included. There's gift bags.
I'm thinking about this right
now. I will be there, Sarah, and I'm you know, being able to go to the pub afternoons and
Caitlin, have you been to Iceland?
I have not.
Well,
just
it's pretty incredible. But yeah, it's gonna be great. Whatever level you're at, whether you're a journalist, a diarist, whether you write greeting cards or birthday cards, or whether you are just someone who's very curious about how to start that journey, I think there's going to be something for everyone. So until next time, guys, it's always a pleasure working with two wonderful people such as yourselves. And yeah, we're just plugging along. We will have more information about live events probably in the next month. We're just looking at calendars, and we're looking at availabilities, and we're looking at venues and things like that. But we thought, let's start with the book bag. And if you are a Patreon member, stick with us, because we're going to talk about, is dating getting easier or harder? There's a little bit of a twist here. I thought it was getting easier, but apparently it's not getting easier. It's getting harder. And I also want to talk about Gen Z's being incapable of doing simple things like climbing up a ladder. They don't know how to climb up a ladder. I'm shaking my head. Join us on Patreon if you're a Patreon member. If not, you can sign up and you can see all the new content. Okay, we'll see you next time. Toodly-doo.